I'm looking for a place in my edible landscapes to plant my watermelon seeds. These are from Will Height Seed Company, and it's called Moon and Stars watermelon, and it's the red type. So the reason again that I like these markers, and you can go look at the video that I did previously on where I get these free non-fade reusable markers. I like these in the garden. They're not the prettiest, but it really helps me pay attention to where something is, because when it's really tiny, you know, like this big, it's hard to see. So I really like these that stand out, and then once they get growing, I can just pull them out. So anyway, let's go find a place for these watermelons. We're getting wet. It's just misting, so it's okay. But I like to throw in a handful of compost every time I plant seeds, just to give them a boost of nutrients and some of those microorganisms, just turn them loose in the soil. All right, so I'm gonna go get some compost. Okay, here's where my compost area is. So I don't need a lot, I just need a little bit. So I'm just gonna grab probably 4 or 5 handfuls and put it in this little bucket and take it with me. This compost does have some sticks in it, but I don't mind for this purpose. I don't mind at all. One of the things I learned about growing watermelons when I first started growing watermelons is that too much water, and I did talk about this on the podcast early on in the podcast, but too much water is a bad thing. So watermelons came from Africa, and they were basically used as canteens, and we're not talking the wet part of Africa, we're talking about the dry part of Africa. And I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but watermelons don't need to be in a place where they get too much water. Here is part of my thought process on where I'm going to plant these watermelons. Okay. This is Hugel 1, one of the Huglekultur beds, and it's very much raised. And anything that's really drought tolerant, like the rosemary, a lot of this water is going to either soak into that bed. You can go watch my video on the Huglekultur beds, but this Huglekultur bed right here, we dug a 6-foot deep pit. We put a lot of wood in there because we've been clearing out our land. Now this has been about 3 or 4 years ago. We put it in here, and then we covered it up with soil. That over time, this will retain a lot of moisture, but it is raised. So I've noticed that over the years, because I really don't have to water this much, except for watering in seeds, which the rain is about to do for me. But this is one of the places that I've already planted my Moon and Stars watermelon seeds. So I was looking for a big open spot, because this plant is going to get really big. It's going to put on a lot of leaves. It's going to do some weed suppression. If the vines start growing out this way, I'll just pick them up and put them back in the bed, and I'll train them to grow out that way. I'll either train it this way or I'll train it that way. But if I go ahead and plant something like snapdragons in there, then the snapdragons will have time to grow up, and they'll be above that canopy that those leaves are going to provide, and it's going to basically shade out this ground right here. But it'll take a little while for that watermelon to grow. So let's go find another place. One of the challenges in gardening is finding bare soil, right? So in this case, I need bare soil that has a lot of room. Okay, so now I am in Hugel 2, and this one is the same deal. We dug a really deep pit. We put a lot of wood in here. There was actually a tree right here that was dead. And we chopped it all up and we put it in this bed right here. And then we just covered the soil back up. I did a video recently on the super duper tomato trellises and then these little trellises, but I don't think that I want to put the watermelons here, because the high point of our property is right back there. Even without this wood pile right here, that's where the high point is. And the water runs down and it runs over here, and this is kind of a low spot. So it doesn't fill that criteria for me in being kind of a raised area. So I could plant some watermelons here, just see what happens, but I think I want to save this space. This is a lot of cilantro right here. I want to save this space for something like sunflowers. So let me find another space for the watermelons. Let's move on. Those are all the stuff that I need to get in the ground from the greenhouse. It's starting to explode. Okay, so this is what I call Melon Hill. So these are the peach trees. This is my peach guild, and I have a lot of things planted in there. I have the onions. I did a video on that. I'm going to be putting in more snapdragons and some other things here. But this part right here is really elevated. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's about 2 or 3 feet higher than the rest of everything that's around it. So I believe what I'm going to do, we do have some onions here. They're not going to live here forever. Whenever it starts to get warm, it'll be time to pull those. But I really think that I'm going to do it right in here. Probably again with some snapdragons or some cosmos or something to pull in the pollinators. But this is really raised, so this is a really good area. But the thing that I want to be sure to tell you about is the peach trees. I am not going to let that big leaf watermelon grow down that way. I'm going to be training it. If I see it growing that way, I'll just pick up the vine and I'll move it, and I'm going to let it grow down this area right here. So again, it's raised, it has enough space, and it's not right up to next to one of my very valuable fruit trees. I have a lot of room for it to grow down this way, out that way, and out that way. So I'm cool with it right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just kind of pull some of this mulch back, and then I am going to throw in a handful of compost. It does have some big sticky material in it. I'm just going to throw that over. There's more mulch. Okay, these seeds are from either last year or a couple years ago, so I'm going to be putting in, the germination rate might have gone down a little bit, so I'm going to put in like 3 seeds right there, just for a little bit of an insurance policy that they're all gonna grow. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little bit more compost on the top. Don't want the birds to see it come along and eat it. Like I said, it's about to rain, so I'm not even going to water that in. All right, let's go to the next one. Here's another raised area. So I am going to be planting it right here. Again, I have a lot of onions right here. Probably going to do a lot of snapdragons in here as well. And here's another spot I'm going to plant some right here. But this area right here, it's a lot more raised, probably about 2 foot. And I'm going to plant my watermelons right there. Again, it's just going to be this big coverage of just a vining plant that trails on the ground, and it's not too close to my fruit trees. I want to make sure I keep any big leafed plants away from the fruit trees. Oh, there's an onion that didn't make it. Oh well. So I'm going to throw a handful of my homemade compost in there. And then I'm going to throw my seeds in there. Put my plant marker. And then I'm going to put some more compost right on top. I'm kind of crushing it up with my hands, make sure there's no big leaves. And I'm going to let the rain water it in. This is the reason I'm not putting it in this area right here. I have a big open spot. I could train the vines to go that way and that way if I put one right there. But look what I have here. I have a roof that when it rains, all that water goes right there. So I'm saving this area right here for water-loving plants. What I have right here is oregano, some larkspur, but this also, that's the south, this is the north. This is really shaded a lot of the time. So I did put some hostas and some things in here, they just haven't really come up yet. So this is a reason why I'm not putting watermelons right there, because there's too much water, but I have found that the artichokes really like it over here. Even though it's pretty shaded, the artichokes are doing great. This is the plum guild right here. again, but this area right here, we have some tulips and stuff that have already played out right here. But this area right here is a newly mulched area in that it's been there, the mulch has been there for like a year. And that's a whole other video, but for some reason we stopped right there. We were having to really, it was hard to mow in there. It just wasn't a good design. So what I did was I brought in more mulch and I made it to where, let me see if I can take you along with me. I'm gonna be silly here for a second. Where it was a nice curve that you could get with the mower. It's a bad design when you cannot mow in a flowing line. It was a mistake I made when I first laid out this bed. Maybe we just ran out of wood chips, I don't know. But this area right here is newly mulched. So I would definitely be putting in some compost. I think I will go ahead and plant some seeds in there, but I need to go get another marker. I thought I was only gonna plant 3 different places, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and do 4. So yeah, so you see this area behind me right here, this is my apple guild. I just don't have any room in there to plant anything else right now. So this area right here is where I grew watermelons last year. And it was small enough that it really didn't affect this apple tree in my little food forest here. But right now I have a lot going on and I'm not gonna try to plant any seeds in there right now. We've got a lot of lettuce growing in here. We've got a lot of larkspur growing in here. Hi, kitty. We've got onions growing in here. I don't know what I'm gonna put in here right now. There's just too much going on for me to make a decision. So and we've got some lavender, we've got oregano, we've got salvia, we've got sweet alyssum. We got a lot going on in here. We got thyme, and I'm just not sure that I want to put it in that same place. Plus, it's a good idea for, you know, to do crop rotation. So I'm not going to plant it in the same space for just a lot of different reasons. Okay, so I'm gonna go make another plant marker so I can get these watermelon seeds in the ground before it rains. One more thing that I really want to tell you is it's a good idea, moon and stars, to write down the date of when you planted your seeds, because a lot of times it'll say on the back of the seed packet how many days to harvest. So if you write down the date, sometimes the only way to know, not the only way, but the best way to know is count 100 days or 90 days, whatever your seed packet says, or if it doesn't say on the seed packet, you can go look it up from this date. Y'all don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you hit that like button if you liked it. And don't forget there's a little share button down here and you can copy the link and send it to someone if they're really into it. So until next time, bye for now.